Hi, my name is Maddie Colbreth Notaro, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Global Operations for Avio Health. We are so excited to be here with you today. Just a quick background on Avio Health before we get started. Avio Health made the move from site-based to the home-based decentralized clinical trial back in 2017. Our participant-centric app has been used by tens of thousands of people to participate virtually in clinical trials from the comfort of their own homes. Dr. Plassey is here today to share some insights on our recently launched COVID-19 trial.
Hi, I'm Dr. Terry Plassey, Medical Director for RedHill Biopharma. RedHill Biopharma is a specialty pharmaceutical company based in Tel Aviv. We're focused on GI and infectious diseases and oncology. We've just started a new study of an investigational agent, upamostat, which is a serine protease inhibitor, which is active against a number of human proteases. Upamostat's demonstrated in vitro activity against SARS-CoV-2. We're doing a randomized, placebo-controlled, double-blind study of upamostat in non-hospitalized patients with symptomatic COVID-19. Running a clinical trial in the COVID-19 era poses problems for most studies, but in particular, for a study within COVID-19 patients, there are several additional challenges. We wanted to do a study where both the patients and the staff were better protected and better able to participate with minimal risk to either side. The hospital staff, the clinic staffs, don't want to have any more contact with the patients than absolutely necessary. In particular, the patients, because they're really acutely ill, if they're not requiring hospitalization, don't really want to go back and forth to the hospital multiple times. So what we've devised is a study which basically allows minimal contact between caregivers and the patients, yet allows us to monitor the patients very, very closely. What we've done is developed a hybrid study. We've developed a study where patients come in once to the clinic or emergency room, are diagnosed, go through a series of tests, complete a questionnaire to determine whether or not they're eligible, and if they're eligible, go home with the medication and with several medical devices to monitor their vital signs, and with a questionnaire app on their cell phone to complete on a daily basis to let us know how they're doing. In addition, home health visits from trained home health nurses for medical assessments and sample collection are performed. The primary objective for the first part of the study is to determine the safety and tolerability of two different doses of the experimental treatment, upamostat, a high dose versus a low dose against placebo. The second part of the study, we're looking at efficacy of upamostat. The primary endpoint is the time to recovery from symptomatic disease. And that's the primary endpoint. In addition, we're following viral shedding and a variety of other blood parameters indicating activity of disease and degree of inflammation.
So as you can imagine, this process took some time to develop. We designed the platform in alignment with the protocol, of course. The process begins with the participant presenting to the clinic with symptoms as identified by their healthcare provider, where they are then introduced to the trial and given details about the protocol. If they're interested, then the healthcare provider walks them through the consent process. Then after that, the examination and the tests confirm whether the participant is COVID positive. Now, for the most part, the baseline or the screening and day one visits will really be on the same day. And as Dr. Plassey mentioned before, there are 5 devices that are being used to collect telemetric information and participant-reported information, both critical to determining safety and efficacy of the investigational treatment. These are going to include things like temperature, the respiratory rate, heart and pulse rates, the blood pressure, oxygen saturation, the body weight, and even a 6-lead ECG monitor to capture the cardiac rhythm and the QTc intervals. While the participants are at the clinic, the participants are shown training modules on how to utilize the devices. Now, these devices are unboxed, and the investigators will then walk the participants through the quick start guides. The study team evaluates the participants to ensure that they will be comfortable completing all of the tasks, all of the research-related tasks. By the end of the site visit, they will have to demonstrate that they can use the devices perfectly. Once all the study-related tasks for the screening visits are completed and the eligibility criteria are met, the participants are then enrolled into the trial. The study medication is usually provided to the participant while he or she is still in the clinic. The participant then completes a smartphone-based diary at the baseline visit, and then daily for the first half of the trial, and then 3 times a week thereafter. These diaries will include questions covering daily symptoms, adverse events, as well as concomitant medication. The device-based monitoring data is uploaded automatically right into the app. To ensure that they complete the study-related tasks on time and as required, the participants receive a system-programmed reminder when each assessment is due. Now, these reminders, they boost compliance, participant engagement, and completion. The immediacy of the reporting allows us to reach out to those who are lapsing and get them back on track before it becomes a recurring issue. Participants can contact the site or the tech team via chat, phone, or email at any time a question or an issue arises using the chat functionality, which is built right into the app. The chat conversation includes date and timestamps and is then part of the data set. In addition to this autonomous data collection, the protocol includes visits by a home health care nurse at various points during the study. The goal is really twofold here. One, to make the process as easy as possible for the participant so that they can continue to recover in the comfort of their own home. And two, to ensure the safety of the patients by monitoring them very carefully. We have placed a great emphasis on providing a high level of safety should the patient's condition ever worsen. The study team will get immediate alerts via the app should any of the device-reported data fall outside the specified parameters or range. This level of monitoring is generally achieved only in a hospital, but we have made it now possible for this level of monitoring to take place at the home. The home healthcare nurse will do things like check on the participants and perform the required study-related assessments. They're going to collect blood samples for certain safety laboratory parameters. They're going to perform the virus PCR swabs at home. They're going to confirm the accuracy of participant-reported data capture, and they're even going to assess the functionality of the devices. Now, not all of these steps in this protocol were obvious from the outset. There were definitely some challenges in designing this process.
Running a COVID-19 clinical trial, especially an outpatient study, is not business as usual. Several factors entered into our design of the study. We're a small company with limited resources. I have to get the study done swiftly and cost-effectively to get the necessary data to be able to get the drug to market as quickly and safely as possible. We need to recruit patients rapidly and very early in the course of their illness when they have just been diagnosed with COVID-19. Many studies are set up in a way that's problematic. As has been shown in other indications, for example in influenza, treatment early in the course of a disease is imperative for antiviral efficacy. We needed to optimize the monitoring of adverse events and vital signs, especially evidence of respiratory compromise, on an ongoing basis. Most patients will do fine, but some will get sicker, and we need to be able to track early warning signals of this.
And of course, there are some challenges on the CRO side as well, like for instance, outcome measurement. Data accuracy is essential. We are collecting data in real time using Bluetooth-enabled devices, and we need to be really attentive to any issues, especially since oxygen saturation, respiratory rate, and temp are measurements of the disease. We have to monitor constantly to see whether anything moves outside the normal parameters, and if anything does, our study team, especially the investigator, gets alerted in real time. The vital signs are done periodically. The more frequent measurements gives us more complete data, which we average over time. This helps us address the typical heterogeneity of the measurement. Then we have adverse events and serious adverse events. Having the ability to capture adverse events in real time is a gift for any project, but particularly key for this project. In a traditional clinical trial, the participant leaves the office and you may not learn about the adverse event until the next visit. It could be a week, could be a month. But with this model, we capture and process adverse events through resolution in real time with our virtual platform and our site team. Then we have device integration. For this project, there are 5 devices. Getting all of these pieces to work together and ensuring that they are integrated seamlessly within the application across all operating systems was essential. And this was really no easy feat. Each device has its own integration software or API and mechanics of collecting and interfacing with the data. But our team of expert digital programmers understood the criticality of this and really made the magic happen. Finally, we have analysis. As you can imagine by now, we are feeding a ton of data into this system. This is a lot of information to capture, not just for the primary endpoints, but many of the secondary ones as well. It is really rare to have as much and as continuous capture of data for a study like this. So it really becomes all the more important to have the statistical analysis set up properly from the outset to aggregate the different data sources.
As Maddie's made clear, there are many challenges to innovating in the clinical trial space, especially in the COVID era. We're very excited about the upsides. We've developed a complex trial that people can do remotely from the comfort of home. We've tried to make this very safe. It's been set up to minimize further exposure to the patients and the providers, alleviating the burden for the patients and for the providers while collecting important safety data in real time. We're trying to make life easier for both patients and investigators. The latter are trying to figure out how to cram an 8-hour day into the next 2 hours. The approach we're taking lets them get their work done more efficiently and enables the trial to be completed more rapidly. In-home use of the device is a game changer. There's very little literature in the area and many opportunities with these devices to do methodology research. We want to see if we are able to correlate some of the measurements from the devices with the symptoms that patients are reporting. For example, does the severity of coughing or average respiratory rate correlate with what patients are telling us about their symptoms? The implications for quality of care go way beyond this study. With the app, you can connect with your doctor and he or she can see your vital signs. A lot of these devices can apply to standard of care for monitoring patients on an outpatient basis, looking for changes which might predict problems or reassure the physician and the patient that all is going well.
The FDA has recently released the COVID-19 Pandemic Recovery and Preparedness Plan, the PrEP plan, which provides a comprehensive summary of the FDA's progress and potential actions to consider moving forward beyond the public health emergency. This new guidance will review how best to use the decentralized clinical trial tools and how to address the data integrity issues arising from the recent trial disruption due to COVID. The decentralized clinical trial model can address so many of these issues. Studies like the Red Hill Project, for instance, truly highlight the upsides of going virtual and push the boundaries of what can be done through the app and device-based study capture. The integration of remote monitoring by virtual ClinOps team coupled with home assessments, represents a huge step towards innovation in the healthcare. I mean, in a way, we have set up a form of a mini ICU in the home. And of course, the study could have been done in a clinical trial setting, of course, but that would come with the risks of exposure, more time, expense, and really less rich data. And as Dr. Plassey mentioned earlier, there is a tremendous potential for rich analytics post-study. The data scientists may be able to retrospectively identify biomarkers to more accurately predict the progression of symptoms and/or recovery. I mean, there is plenty we still don't know, but we are learning every single day and we are so excited to be a part of this virtual leap forward. We want to thank you so much for joining Dr. Plassey and I today. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we really hope to see you soon.
Welcome back. Thank you very much for all of the speakers there. I'm delighted to be joined with them now on the virtual stage for a live Q&A. We will get straight into it. Actually, some questions from the audience. So Liana Smith asks, what perimeters are set to ensure the actual patient is answering the questionnaire and not a family member or friend?
Yeah, I mean, that is a great question. You know, we have actually deployed a home health care team to work with us to ensure that the participants are doing all their assessments the way that they're supposed to be doing them. So the investigator really has to assess the reliability of the patient. So there are multiple home healthcare visits by a nurse or a nurse practitioner, and several, of course, televisits as well. And during the televisits and the home healthcare visits, the patient will be assessed at that time. If there's any clear discrepancies between the patient's condition witnessed by the study staff and the results of the questionnaire, then that's going to be noted at that time.
Okay.
I should also know there are like multiple checks on the system. Can I talk? We're measuring vital signs and temperature, blood pressure, etc. And the whole process sort of has to hang together. If we're getting one thing on the questionnaire and a completely different story from the various devices, the telemetry, that's going to suggest that there's a discrepancy, whether or not the patient's answering the question or somebody else. There's still a lot of multiple checks and balances in the systems that we're using.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. There's another question from Eileen Donlan, quite specific, which is what device was used in that COVID trial?
Yeah, there are 5 devices, I think. We're using BioIntelliSense BioSticker to measure temperature, pulse, and respirations. We're using iHealth blood pressure cuff, pulse oximeter, and scale. And we're using a LiveCore EKG, 6-lead EKG, which basically tells us rhythm and QTC intervals. It's a lot of devices.
There's a lot going on. So a follow-on question to that then is, so how do you ensure that all the device data is being properly captured and integrated together across those 5 devices?
Yeah.
Well, that was a tremendous amount of work. And I think the Avio Health team, Kamalia and her staff, spent a lot of work, probably a lot of nights and weekends putting it together. We see it in real time. I mean, get the data. If one of the devices comes off, if the patient's not filling out the questionnaires or not doing the blood pressures or the pulse ox, we see that, and we can alert the investigator, and the investigator can see it, have the staff speak with the patient, and in some cases they've been going out to the patient to see what's going on. So unlike a traditional trial where you find out a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later that the patient hasn't been filling out everything, you see it in real time. And so we get all scared because we see stuff now which we would have never seen before, but we can act on it within 24 hours or actually less.
But the device integration did take some thought. I mean, we had to take a step approach really when we were doing that initial device integration, which we worked with our, partners, our strategic device partners, and collaborate with them through those APIs. So basically, we worked with them at the beginning to determine what the devices were going to be. Then once we determined what that device package looked like, we then trained all of the staff. We trained the participants. We used training tools to train them on how to properly understand the devices, integrate the devices within our system, right? And then we set all these alerts within the system to trigger our what's called the virtual site team, right, which is comprised of investigators or coordinators, to trigger any of those alerts. So anything that, if it didn't look right, if something went wrong, if the patch wasn't adhering properly, or if something was off, that virtual site team of coordinators or investigators were alerted to know that something wasn't right. And then we would reach out to the participants to make sure that we got them back on track. So it was really a great way for us to keep track of all that data and all the devices, and make sure that the participants were doing what they were supposed to do and stayed compliant.
It must have been amazing to see kind of all this data coming in real time, like quite, as you said, Terry, quite different to what you normally experience with a clinical trial, right?
It's like sitting in an ICU, the patient at home.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then you recover at home, and we're not burdening the staff. We're not further exposing the staff, of COVID while they're working in the clinic, and the participants can recover at home. So it's kind of a nice setup. It's a mini ICU at home.
How involved were the patients in the design of the study you did with RedHill?
So we actually, prior to the RedHill project, we involve our participants in exit surveys for all of our projects. So when the project is finished, they complete 2 things: an exit interview and an exit survey. So we collect all their information about the involvement in the project, how they felt about it. Did they like the decentralized approach? Did they like it better than paper? What did they think about it? It's a pretty, extensive survey as to their feeling towards the decentralized approach. And then on top of that, we also do exit interviews with participants. We sometimes, if they agree to it or consent to it, we'll do recordings of that interview just to ensure, to capture their, their feelings about that. And we incorporate all all of their feedback, their approach, their sentiment about that towards building the next project. So we of course incorporated that feedback into building, the Red Hill project, and incorporated some of that that sentiment into this. We didn't actually, when building this particular COVID protocol, we didn't involve patients in this COVID protocol, but we involved that feedback, that past feedback, into this project. So we always are interested in collecting participant feedback from all of our projects, and always looking to improve our processes, our application, and in just our process in general.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Rachel, Terry, John, and Matty, for a great Q&A. I think we could have gone on for another half an hour probably, and there's lots of questions that are coming in. If there are further questions that I haven't been able to answer, you can connect with the speakers on the platform here. You're just going to go down below the video and you'll see their names, and you can connect to them and answer them. You can also find out more about what Oblivio Health are doing on the virtual exhibition hub. So there's some information there for them. You can connect with them, and there's some articles and case studies that they provide. So thank you again to all the speakers today. Thank you to all the speakers and sponsors from today: IntelliQuest, Science 37, PR, Health Sciences, Humour, and obviously Oblivio Health. Remember to check out the virtual exhibition to access more information about the solutions that are available. But that's the end of the stream content for today, but we're not done with the learnings. You can take a quick break, probably about a minute or two, fill up your coffee again, maybe grab a beer, depending on what time of the world you're in, and then join the roundtables, which we've got several on offer, which is on data standardization, patient experience, and the DCT as a care option, when they kick off in less than 5 minutes. So just click on the title and then choose the session that you want to go to, so you can continue the conversation and then do some networking. We will see you all tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, where I will be kicking off day 2 of Clinical 2021. We're starting with some fantastic presentations on transformational design, the next step in decentralized trials. I'm sure you won't want to miss any of them. Final reminder, if you're signed up for the AbioX workshop, which is running tomorrow at 10 a.m. GMT, you can join there in the Zoom link that you will have been sent, and then you can come back to the live platform after. Thank you again to all the speakers and sponsors today, and thank you to you attendees for joining and the interaction and engagement. See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Izzy, and thanks, Rachel and John.